study of Southern decorative arts. And if you think about ceramics, nothing can be more true. As the scholar who brought to the forefront not only Benjamin DuVal, but John Bartlam and Andrew Duché, and really a whole cast of superstars in early Southern ceramics that we know about. So introducing him would be quite a challenge. But luckily, Brad's home state has chosen to reach out today, and the state of Georgia is actually going to introduce Brad. And I'm going to read something to you from Dale Couch, who is the curator of decorative arts at the Georgia Museum of Art at the University of Georgia. The landscape of Georgia decorative arts would be much poorer without the contributions that Brad has made to the entire field. We all, as individual professionals, as well as an entire field of study, owe him a huge intellectual debt. No one alive has done more to shape this field, and no one has touched the lives of more students of decorative arts than he has. And it's for that reason that the Board of Trustees of the Georgia Museum of Art at the University of Georgia is awarding Brad his Henry D. Green Lifetime Achievement Award in the decorative arts. Oh.
I knew him, Henry. Frank and I used to go visit Henry, and he would tell us stories of collecting and what he'd done with my field. This was really a great honor. I had no idea this was going to happen. Honestly,
That was the goal.
Really great. I'll always cherish this because I thought a lot of him. Thanks to all.
What better way to welcome to the podium Brad Rauschenberg.
That's my friend up on the screen. I think it's a great forum. I'm just glad it was intact when I found it. I appreciate such a great turnout today, all you pot lovers. I hope there'll always be more people emerging in this field who have an interest in ceramics and furniture and other decorative arts. Frank and I enjoyed seeing the best in people's homes and enjoyed meeting the best people throughout the South that own these hoppers. And 15 years, I guess, maybe 16 years, we were in the field. And thousands of photographs were taken. Many handshakes. Many good motels and many bad motels. Sometime in the winter, the heat wouldn't work in the hotel. I took a slide once of Frank in Kentucky, Paris, Kentucky. Frank in bed with his coat on and his hat on with all the covers over it. A concrete floor, there was no heat. Absolutely no heat in the place. And we froze to death. Years back, in 1977, on a Richmond, Virginia farmhouse front porch, what I found detained us by our pending field research appointment. The salt glazed jug form was not familiar to me because of a late 18th century bulbar shape with a handle suggested the proles of New York. The B. DuVal & Co. Richmond raised the further question, which Richmond? After years of researching Southern ceramics, I was not aware of any Richmond stoneware and did not know of any potteries in that city. After Frank and the field representative entered the house, the homeowner, Mrs. Robert Hopper, returned to see what was causing my delay on the front porch. She said that Jug had always been at the farm and was surprised to see of my interest. Later, with our photography finished inside, I asked if I could photograph the jar. She said certainly, and not failing to notice my focus, very kindly added, "You want that piece of old pottery?" I immediately said, "Yes, of course," and then told her it would be for the museum. Here arises a great area occurring in field research. Seeing so many wonderful, important pieces, how could we not ask, would you like to sell this to the museum? Frank and I recognized that asking this question would keep our field representative and us out of many houses, as word would spread, not to mention hurting MESDA's reputation. Entrance to homes was based on trust. Yes, we left many homes with only photographs, notes, and an occasional splinter of wood, and memories of a great piece. However, I did not ask for the jar, it was forced on me. How could I refuse, as I argued it would only get broken if I left it behind. Driving home, I could not wait to show others at MESDA. Sitting down in my office downstairs, I glanced at my desk to see what had accumulated after a week of absence. What I first saw and immediately read stunned me, as it was an advertisement of Benjamin DuVal's 1815 stoneware. Manufactured in Richmond, Virginia. Excuse me. Carol Mulcox, one of our dedicated microfilm readers, was aware of my interest in pottery and would always place a copy of such new information on my desk. But one now was DuVal's advertisement and was jarred together. At the same point in time, someone was telling me to get busy and do research. After locating more advertisements, land transactions, city directories, I then found out about surviving policies for the Mutual Assurance Society, a currently existing London insurance company. This insurance company sent agents to larger cities such as Richmond and Charleston. Agents would secure policies and write up the property, complete with buildings to be insured, a description of materials used and the size of the buildings. Between the policies and the collections of the Virginia State Library, copies provided by the London Insurance Office. When I wrote them and asked them what sort of information they had on the agents in this country, they sent me a large volume of book that had been published on their company, and they said, whatever you want, we'll supply you. So I told them, I said, I'd like Charleston, I'd like Richmond, Alexandria, Norfolk. A big tube of copies of policies arrived in the mail, and copies of the agent's field reports arrived in the mail. I think they were very glad to get someone interested in the company. Virginia State Library copies provided by the London Insurance Office and the handwritten notes of the agent, a very complete plan of pottery development. Finishing the research after several months, I went to Frank and said, I would like to go to Richmond, as I know where DuVal's pottery was located, and hopefully could find some evidence. To my surprise, Frank said, okay, but fly and rent a car and be back by day's end, because we have a lot happening here. That's Frank. So, I caught the first plane out of Winston to keep my deadlines. I rented a car, drove over the James River, and turned right into the warehouse district, making sure my doors were locked. I located the block between 23rd and 24th, bounded by E and F Street. At this point, I said, oh no, as the front of the entire block was now occupied by the Strickland Foundry and Machine Company. This is one of DuVal's advertisements I found on my desk there at MESDA. That's what I viewed when I first drove up. And I thought, no chance to find that pottery. Covered over half the block. Turning left, I noticed an alley behind the imposing structure. It's the other side of that chain link fence. And here, that's an alley going down through there. Here were thoughts of returning home empty-handed, telling a sad story. I thought, oh well, might as well get out and see what I could see in the weed and junk covered back lot. Looking down, as not to step on broken bottles and other objects, I could not believe that I was standing on killed furniture and broken sherds marked DuVal. Though small and compressed after years of heavy trucks and the punishment of back alley suppers, I found enough for a small surface collection and placed my findings in a fresh brown bag I found near my feet. Then I soon noticed my actions had attracted a group of men further down the alley, also holding brown paper bags. They became curious in what I was putting into my brown paper bag. I had also gathered at the top. As the men approached, I became aware that my field work was over, and I excitedly exited the scene for the airport and then MESDA with my discovery confirming that research works. This finding later provided the basis for the May 1978 article in our journal Rose of Arts, which is now available online from other researchers and collectors. This is where I turned my car in, and right in there is where I parked. And I walked into this area a little bit, and that's where I started finding all the shirts just laying right there. Gave me such a good feeling when I found them. I contacted Dr. Norman Barker at William & Mary, as I knew that he led an archaeological field school every year, and perhaps a pottery site could be excavated. This was soon realized, and now we have results by others of the James River potters in an exhibit and lectures. Many thanks to all involved in this project and those yet to come. Are there any questions concerning DuVal and the discovery of the site? You know, I've found several sites that I've been looking for. This was one of the more exciting ones because I found it from afar, and then it proved to be right when I walked out on the site. Frank and I, for instance, knew of a journeyman potter from Salem, Potter, who moved south into northern Davidson County. And Frank and I followed his lot ownership and where he probably was, where they set up the pottery. And we went down there one Sunday afternoon, it was getting dark, and we walked around in the woods. And we started walking on slip decorated pottery. And we said, we got to come back and see how big this is. We brought some of the pieces back with us. And we couldn't go until Wednesday. When we went back down there, bulldozers had already destroyed the site. And now you have slits brewery down there. So I'll always repeat something I've always believed in. Strike while the iron's hot.
What is the section, is the O or Q, the square in the middle of the
Well,
Can you repeat
I base this drawing on the Mutual Assurance Society's policies, where they describe the paint room where women worked in it, and where they kept play in all the different rooms. And that's what those letters are for.
Can you explain what women's work in the paint room?
Can I explain them working?
Expand upon that, like, what
It's just.
Decorating pottery, I guess. I would like to think so. You go to staff show over in England, you see all that going on over there. But if you should ever have an opportunity to look at the Mutual Assurance Society plats that were done and the agents' reports, it's just amazing what they describe. Not only will they draw the size of the building, they tell you what the roof had on it, whether it's wood roof or tile roof. You know, DuVal was involved in the tile manufacture too. And so, but I think research is just great. You have to live it though, to have it materialize. I gave a talk once over in Michigan, students at the university up there, about having a prepared mind. And that's very important when you start doing work, research. Any questions on that?
How many people in the height of the factory worked there? You have no idea?
No, we don't know,
No.
unfortunately.
And maybe production levels? Do they have any idea how much was produced?
Don't know, they
No.
didn't say. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
How about Bates? What's the range?
Were there a lot of decorated pieces from the ball?
I haven't seen all of them. All I saw initially was just that surface collection. You saw those few that I framed with that brown paper bag. And hurriedly left.
Brad, could you go back to the slide of your price list? I think that's a very important indication of the range of wares he made in size. And I mean, that's probably the earliest price list in the South for pottery, as far as I know. And when we did the salvage excavation, we were able to match up the fragments we found with virtually all the sizes indicated. I think we virtually replicated everything he had on his price list,
That's great.
which is a very important document.
Of course, these cards continue. You know, these are not the only ones. There's a lot of ads.
Brad, this was obviously a huge discovery when you made it, and it was sort of a highlight of the early MESDA journals. I mean, this pod with the site, with the documentary research. Could you tell us what the reaction in the decorative arts community was to this discovery of, you know, important stoneware coming out of Richmond with a particular site, with a particular intact piece? And
People never write you. They don't. When John and I produced that book on Charleston furniture, people never wrote. They never wrote. Never called. I think people just accepted that it would come out of MESDA. You know, and thank you for doing it, but that's it.
Brad, Georgia finally called you back today.
I do appreciate that. But I don't know, I guess there's a delay in reaction time or something. That's why Georgia finally reacted. But it's very difficult to know why people don't write you. Perhaps because the book's out and that's it, and they're glad. But, and in the way of the Charleston book, there are no further questions that they could ask. Every question had been answered. Believe me. No more footnotes to add, no more pieces to photograph. That was it.
Brad?
Brad, what did Frank say?
In his quiet way,
Yeah.
well, it was a good discovery. Just a time, one rainy day, I went into the Strawberry Chapel in South Carolina. And a little while later, I came out with photographs of the earliest piece of Southern silver, chalice. And that prompted a little exhibition, and Frank writing an article on it. I believe heavily in synchronicity. I think sometimes things just come to you. Somebody saying, you're the one I want to write this up. That's the way they've always been with me. And it's amazing how that's happened.
Brad, based on your ruminations and research on the fall line, were you surprised to find the pottery in Richmond? Or were you expecting it, or did that come afterwards?
Well, that lecture I gave down in Georgia in the fall line, that was after the DuVal article. The fall line is very important. As you know, it extends from Columbus, Georgia, all the way up to Baltimore. And that's where boats can't go any further up these backcountry rivers. And you can trace it all up through the southern states. Columbia, South Carolina, Halifax, North Carolina, they have rapids there, Richmond, and of course Baltimore. But that's where you find all this clay showing up, so naturally potters would have their industry in that area. Also, concerning furniture, there's a great transition that took place. The secondary woods are no longer white pine that you find on the coast. Suddenly they were yellow pine. The inlays were no longer Ceylon satinwood. They were hollow. And also you have a difference in animal life, invertebrates, are different above the fall line. So many things occurred. And of course, furniture forms are different above the fall line. Any more questions?
So Brad, since you found that first marked piece, only 5 other marked pieces have turned up. What do you think about that?
Since I found it?
Yeah, since you found the first marked or called attention, only 5 other marked DuVal pieces have shown up on the antique market in 30-some years.
Well, I think it's very fortunate that the piece I found had not been smashed over the years.
And it's the best of all those pieces in terms of its beauty and form.
Well, they're so bulbous, it's a wonder they survive. You know, that's the reason potters went to cylindrical forms, so they could transport them. Because if you try to transport bulbous forms, they knock into each other and break up very easily, even with straw in between.
Brad, Daniel suggests that perhaps we all ought to think of the exhibit outside in the gallery as our big thank you letter to you for the discovery of that pot. And I think we all ought to say thank you for the discovery of that pot.
It wasn't me, it was a field research program. One of the many benefits of, in many ways, 15 tough years, but in many other ways, 15 great years. I'd come back to the museum, I would be so excited, absolutely so excited about what we found. And then, of course, I had to develop all the film, make all the prints and pieces. But it was worth it. And only then, the next day after I got through doing that, we'd be on the road again with more pieces. And the people that made this really impossible are people that work behind the scenes, the field representatives, like Pepper Potter, and many others, are just tremendous ladies who got us into these homes. And, constantly looking for a plant. And that happened. Eggnog has so many various tastes. But, of course, the product of what we found in the field is downstairs in our files and in the new area over next door in MESDA now for all to use. And I wish I was 21 again, to start it all over again. I would have a different eye than I had then.
Why were you originally going to that house? Was there a particular thing you were looking for?
It could have been a painting, or a piece of furniture, or a piece of silver, a miniature. Hard to say. We went to so many houses for so many reasons. Somebody went in and it didn't turn out, we had to leave. That's why when you go into a house, never carry all your working equipment in with you. Never carry your camera and lights and cords, extension cords in with you. Because then you're obligated. A photograph, should it not turn out, there you are. And I have actually gone into a house, set up, taken pictures with no film in the camera. Complete shame. Because we got caught. So we learned, when you pull up in front of a house, go in, introduce yourself, and then kind of, I'll bring my camera equipment in now, after you look at the piece. Never go in half-cocked, because if you do, it just, you set yourself up.
Brad, what was the history of that vessel in that place? Was that family,
It had always been in her family.
that was an old family in that house that had been there for a long time?
She was probably in her 80s. And I don't know who else was in the house. There was no other members in the house. When we were there, they could be working or out in the field or something.
What is your absolute favorite Frank and Brad field trip ever?
Do you have about an hour? There's so many. We had such fun on the road. Some days were tough, but we always came back at the end of every week just elated about what we found. And of course, then when I printed all the photographs, we put them in folders. Then we called in the rest of the staff. They all came in and looked at the folders, and everybody started putting them down. I don't know. It's the time South Carolina kept causing our car to break down because we had bought a tremendous collection out of the Cannon house, and it seems like South Carolina wouldn't let us drive out of the state. Fan belt broke. Other things happened to that car before we could get it back to North Carolina. And we were running with the car, couldn't even close the back of the station wagon. We had so many good things in that car. Thea's painting, the Queen Anne upholstery, easy chair, a side chair, silver. We thought we'd never get back, but South Carolina was just holding on.
How about Frank evading the policeman?
No, I don't know if I can tell them.
It's too late, you gotta tell them.
That was a devious side to Frank just a little bit. He'd get a grin and tell him a story, and all of a sudden you knew you went in to hear something really good. Frank and I were going over these little hills in south side of Virginia, just nice hills back in there. And Frank suddenly realized we were late for an appointment. He said, we better pick up the speed. So I looked over there, and that speedometer was kicking on up around 65 over those little hills. I said, Frank, we're going to get a ticket or something. No. Just then, coming toward us in the opposite direction was a highway patrol car. He went past us. He slammed on his brakes and said, Frank, he's going to get us. Frank said, no. And I said, yes. He turned around. I was looking at him. He came right after us. And Frank said, I don't have time for a ticket. So he floored it. And we went flying over some more hills, and he said, this is a good place. Maybe he'd been there before, I don't know. He pulled off on the side of the road and went up in the woods and turned sideways. Our car could not be seen from the road. Remind me of Thunder Road, you know. But the policeman went on by and never caught us. There was another side of Frank I didn't see there. There's a lot more, but I can't tell them all here with next company. Any other questions? Or just one final statement? Support the museum. They do great work.